So welcome to episode 5 of Project George. As you can probably gather, I'm not in the garage, and there's good reason for that. It's been quite a while since I posted the last video, and I sort of mentioned it at the end of that particular update that the next plan was to really start gathering some of the parts together and to start refurbishing some of the parts that had already come off the car. So I was actually just boxing things up ready to go into storage, and I thought it's probably a good time just to go through some of the work that's been done and try and give you an idea of why things take so long and why there's like a month between the last video and this video. I've been scanning the world and talking to people all over the place trying to find these parts. Some parts have been replaced, some parts have been renewed. I'll go through a few of them. I have finished the welding on the body shell and we'll go and look at that very shortly, but yeah, this is just a small selection of some of the parts that have come together already. So the braking system has been completely overhauled. I'll try and keep my shadow out of the way here. So on the rear brakes, we've got new brake cylinders, new shoes. Everything's been cleaned up. No nasties to speak of really there. The only thing I will say is that the brake shoes were about 3mm longer on the tank, so I had to sand those back. It was it's just one of those things with pattern parts, you know, they're just not quite the same as the originals. So the front calipers, again, apologies for the light, brand new pistons. So these are a 2-piston caliper, similar to what you would see on an older bike. All the pistons were available, which I couldn't believe, and new dust seals. Sorry, new dust boots and internal seals, which are the main hydraulic seals. They've cleaned up fine and they're all ready to go back on. I've got new brake hoses, and the brake pipes that needed to be replaced have been replaced. There's the carburettor. So this is partly the carburettor that was on the car and part of a carburettor that was kindly donated by Simon Carr, that I think came from Paul Stevens. I might be wrong, so whoever it came from, thanks massively. That's really helped me out. My carburettor, I'd completely finished rebuilding it, all new gaskets, new float, new needle valve, and then realised that some of the bracketry around the outside of the carburettor was missing, and this car arrived to me in pieces, so I didn't actually know what was missing until it got to the point where I was rebuilding it all. So that was thankfully, knowing that, you know, the right person with the right bit of kit, that really came in handy. There's the front grille. The air cleaner has been stripped and repainted and cleaned, and the vacuum on there that opens and closes that little flap inside the intake, that's all been cleaned up. A new brake master cylinder. Had to go for the single pot version. The original has got 2, and the servo I've just cleaned up. I've not kept it in the original zinc coating. I'm really not bothered about keeping everything looking like it did back in 1974. A nice coat of chassis black on there. Charcoal canister there, that's new old stock from Jay. Brand new coil, I've cleaned up the bracket and repainted that. Random piece of rocker assemblies. The rear lights I've cleaned up slightly and repainted the inserts. Some of these parts just took hours and hours and hours to get right. Rear reversing lights, again, you would have looked at those and thrown them in the bin, but it shows you what you can do with a bit of effort and time and yeah, elbow grease. So intake manifold, rocker cover, again, I'm not going for the factory original finish. I just want something that looks nice and tidy, looks good, and will last for a few years. New alternator, new water pump, oversized pistons, original Honda pistons from the 70s. I've refurbished some of the emblems, all of the emblems. Again, it's one of those jobs really satisfying, took absolutely hours, but will look great when it's back on the car. Done the Honda-matic badge as well, and that'll be going back on. Cleaned up the starter motor, that was all fine. Distributor here, rebuilt that. That was C-solid, absolutely solid, and the actuator, the vacuum actuator to advance the timing, absolutely C-solid. Just stripped it down, soaked it in a bath of WD, put it all back together, everything's great. So again, these things just take time, so just a case of working through everything. Lower control arms, all just needed clean up, the bushes are fine. Door handles and bits of trim all needed clean up. Radiator, stripped back, all cleaned up. I've got new hoses for those. The brake unions and assemblies are all done. Over here we've just got boxes and boxes of the timing belt, tensioner, brake discs, servicing parts, like some new hoses. I've got new fuel basically the whole of the car's going to have new hoses, all fuel hoses, coolant hoses, air hoses, everything that needs changing, that's old, basically getting on for 50 years old, is being renewed. So seems to be the right thing to do. So again, this is just to show you what has taken all this time and what is going on with this rebuild, and I will take you across to the garage now and show you where we're getting on with the body shell. So here's where we are with the body shell. I think the last time you saw this, it was pre-welding in the inner wings. I started to store some of the bits and pieces in the back of the car, so these bumpers need a little bit of attention with a hammer and dolly. Just on the top of here, needs a coat of paint. In here we've got a refurbished oil pan. I am hoping to spend quite a lot of time over the Christmas break sorting the body shell out, and that's going to be going around the whole car, sanding it. There's particularly the bonnet, there's some spider rust on there and it's kind of hard to explain. I'll try and show that on the camera. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up, but really I just need to attack this the car with sanding materials basically, and look how bad some of these areas are. If we just look on the top of here, there is some rust. I don't know how bad that is until I start to work that back. So I'm hoping we're not looking at any more welding, but you just never know until you start to uncover these things. But I'm pleased to say that the front of the car is now back in one piece. So that's the repair panels that I got from Jay, which made life so much easier. I just tacked those in and then welded them, and they've been seam sealed. I've done them in black for now just to give them a coat of paint. They're actually going to get Gravitex, the U-Pole Gravitex, on the whole of the inside of the wings and the underneath of the car. It's a product I've used before, very happy with it. So really it was a case of using the old satin black there just to give it a coat of something in between me finalising with that final coat of Gravitex. So just walk you around to the other side. And on this side, I didn't have the repair panels, so but to be honest, it didn't need it. I've made this one myself, which is my attempts at fabricating, but it's okay, does the job, and welded in a few patches because this side was actually quite good. And again, just give it a quick coat of satin black just to protect it for the time being. So that's pretty much the welding. As far as I'm aware, that's the welding done. Got some tidying up to do inside the engine bay. There's bits and bobs around the car. Like I say, I'm going to spend the Christmas break between Christmas and New Year just going over the whole body shell, trying to sort out any issues that need to be done. There's a few dents. If we just come around to the front of the car, down here, there's some rust and a hole in there. I don't know what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to do a fiberglass repair on that. I am going to be fiberglass repairing the front wings. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm gonna spend some time with a flat disc, just grinding some of this back and just seeing how bad the damage is. But if you can notice, there's lots of black on here. That's actually Furtan rust treater. So I'm just basically looking through all the rust and tackling it as is appropriate, really, and seeing how bad it is. I mentioned that rust before on the bonnet. I don't know whether this will focus particularly well. Oh, there we go. So that's it basically. I'm going to just have to sand that back. I've got, I'll try it with maybe 320. I've got some really good high build primer. It's the same on the other side, but the rest of the car hasn't done that. I'm really quite surprised with that. But the inside of the bonnet might be tricky. But we'll do what we can. This is never going to be a perfect show car, and that's not the intention. Next job will be to take the windscreen out, because I need to do some repairs just here at the base, just to see what the damage is there. Somebody's put some filler in here, But the rest of the A-pillar feels quite solid. I suspect there's been some water trapped under there. That could actually be seam sealer. I'm really not sure. There is seam sealer further down here. Again, sand it back, see what's going on, repair if needed. So that's pretty much the body shell at the moment. So I mentioned I'll be doing some work over the Christmas break, so hopefully these videos will be a little bit more frequent over that period of time, and that'll be preparation for the paint work. When that's done, we'll take a view of getting things back into the car, rebuilding the engine, and getting all that work done. So that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next instalment. Speak to you soon.